Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar, The Growing Impact of Energy Information System Solution and the Power of the Software as a Service Platform. All participants are in listen-only mode, but you can send your question in the Google Meet chat box during the webinar. My name is Alberto Colombo. I am President and Founder at DERNetSoft. Presenting with me today are Matt Kenter, Senior Customer Relationship Manager for Healthcare Sector at Pacific Gas and Electric, and Seth Baruch, National Director for Energy and Utility at Kaiser Permanente. It is a real pleasure to have you both today to talk about the evolution of the energy information system solution in the cloud age and share with our audience industry perspective and success stories. But without any further ado, I'll hand over to Seth for his presentation.
Thanks everyone for joining today. I'm Seth Baruch, National Director for Energy and Utilities for Kaiser Permanente. And I'm going to talk about how we've used advanced energy analytics both to improve our on-site solar program as well as other distributed energy resources, as well as our energy management program overall. So those of you are probably familiar with Kaiser Permanente. We are one of the largest integrated healthcare providers in the country. We have now over 1,200 buildings, including the 39 hospitals and 700 medical office buildings that you see there. But we also have data centers, call centers, administrative buildings, and other facilities. So we have almost 80 million square feet of occupied space. So we've got a large fleet of buildings, which makes it a challenge to be able to do things on a large scale. Next slide. Kaiser also has these very ambitious and broad environmental sustainability goals. And part of that is we have a large-scale program to deploy on-site, what we call distributed energy resources, or DERs. That's on-site solar, fuel cells, and battery storage, to be able to both generate electricity more sustainably, but also to improve the resiliency of our facilities in cases where the grid is not available. However, the energy utilities team at Kaiser consists of me and one other person, so we don't really have the bandwidth to be able to assess the performance of what is now 60 plus megawatts of solar power and 35 plus megawatts of fuel cells, as well as more than a dozen different battery locations. So we needed a platform, we needed a solution to be able to assess the performance of all of these assets on a wide scale. And one of the things we've learned is that you can really do this, a lot of this, if you have access to timely 15-minute interval data. Next slide. So the first chapter in our story, if you will, is that we noticed that a lot of our fuel cell sites were producing too much energy. Now, fuel cells, they're designed to, most of them, to operate their base load. So they operate at night as the same amount as they operate during the day. And to a certain extent, you would expect some in the wee hours of the morning to have the output of these fuel cells exceed what the demand is of the facility. So there's always a certain amount of net metering that's to be expected. However, that level, if it gets to be too much, you start losing money. And we started seeing cases where our gas costs were going up, so we were paying for the natural gas for the fuel cells, but our electricity wasn't going down in a corresponding fashion. So as a result, we needed to really be able to assess the performance of these fuel cells, how much electricity they were putting out at what times of the day, and how much how much excess production was going to the grid. And when we did this, we actually were able to find that a number of fuel cell units, you can see there in this graph, that they were exporting, in this example, on the weekend. So they were pretty much putting more energy out than is needed during the weekends, and at which cost we lose money on every kilowatt hour on our PPA that when electricity is sold to the grid. And so as a result of this intelligence, we were able to actually downsize a couple of our fuel cells that were simply too large. Again, we've got 35, 40 sites with fuel cells. We can't really audit these bills all the time. So we needed this platform to be able to tell us in a very sort of easy to use dashboard that covered all the sites where the excess production was and how much and what therefore we could do about it. So going to the next slide. So then we said, well, okay, we can use this 15-minute interval data to determine how much we're exporting and importing. We could also import the solar PPA data. So most of our solar sites are third-party owned and operated. We simply pay a price per kilowatt hour for the turnkey construction and operation of these facilities. And so what we're able to do with this platform is we could say, okay, well, a number of our solar contracts have minimum percentages of performance. So if you generate less than 85% of the expected output of the solar panels, then we can get compensated from the PPA provider. So again, hard to assess this across all these sites. We set up this system whereby we can monitor on a monthly, annual basis, what have you, which sites are underproducing, and therefore be able to ensure that we get the proper level of compensation. In addition to the expected output, if you go to the next slide, you can see that sometimes we are not charged correctly. So some cases we see the wrong price per kilowatt hour, or the price of the PPA escalated at the wrong time, or simply, just the kilowatt hours are wrong. And we've seen cases where, the number of kilowatt hours that was billed in a month exceeded what the system can actually produce. So again, very hard across 100 or so different locations to be able to test this and to check this to make sure that we're getting billed correctly. So this solar PPA auditing function has also been a very key part of being able to use this platform. So these are just a couple, you can go to the next slide. These are just a couple of the use cases, the examples of how a system that monitors the performance of our DERs has played such a key role for Kaiser in terms of managing these very important assets for us. So now we move to the next chapter. And now, so in addition to the supply side, we were able to see that actually there are things we can do on the demand side, on the energy management side, with this 15-minute interval data that's in this, this platform that we can check whenever we wanted to, whichever site we wanted to, and could aggregate by service area, by region. There's lots of different ways you can slice and dice the data. This is an example here of where we could use this data to not just determine sort of the daily peaks, but also identify when and how much what we call these abnormal peaks take place. And it turns out that a lot of our facilities, they're beyond sort of the daily average, which you should try and reduce anyway. But there are times where it just shot up like 10, 20% more than even the maximum or the average daily peak. And so we're able to kind of sense for all these sites, given the frequency, that there are probably simple things that could be done in order to reduce these abnormal peaks. In this case, we could just save $10,000 a month just by figuring out what's happening during that time, so that that can be avoided. It doesn't necessarily mean we have to change a lot of different things, but maybe there's some combination of energy uses that can be shifted or changed around. So this is the kind of thing we're able to determine and fix right off the bat. And if you go to the next slide, the other thing that's really important about this is that we're able to do this across not just one building, which, we could probably, look at a building here, a building here, but look at it across dozens and dozens of buildings. I mean, here you're looking at a slide with the abnormal peak distribution for 60 Kaiser buildings, but now we can actually do it for hundreds and hundreds. And so you can kind of see the patterns that might emerge, both in terms of the height of that abnormal peak, as well as what time of day that abnormal peak or peaks tend to take place. Again, it just gives us more information for us to be able to inform our site level people that something weird's going on and they should figure out what's going on. So then we said, okay, well, now we've got sort of the DERs covered. We've got sort of let's just call it peak demand management opportunities identified. I was telling this about what we could be doing here to one of my other team members, and he said, this is really interesting. I'd really love to know across all the Kaiser buildings how many people leave their systems on at night. Their HVAC systems mostly, or maybe some lighting. And so what we did is a very straightforward thing, which we're able to do with this platform, is to look at across hundreds of buildings, across averaging an entire year, what is the typical load at 2 in the afternoon and 4 in the morning, at the height of the of energy usage and at the valley of energy usage. And so if you found circumstances where the 4 a.m. load, the ratio of the average 4 a.m. load across an entire year was close to the daytime load, that is to say a ratio of around 1, then you're probably coming up with opportunity. There's probably opportunities there, particularly at facilities that are not 24/7. Our hospitals, not all the spaces are used all the time, but they're generally occupied 24/7. But our administrative buildings, our medical buildings, that's not the case. So you can see here that the closer in that right-hand column, the closer you are to 100%, that means the closer that nighttime load equals daytime load. So there's probably an opportunity there to fix that. So you can see there what's possible is more like 20%, 25%. What's avoidable is more like 100%. The hospitals, as it turns out, they're pretty much in a tight range where 4 a.m. usage is around 70% of 2 p.m. usage. That's not to say there aren't opportunities, but from this, again, we have the energy intelligence to go building by building and say, hey, you might have a problem here. Go to the next slide. So then we said, well, Kaiser tends to think more in terms of EUI, so kBTU or watts per square foot. And so we could see that, watts per square foot, the better buildings were pretty low, under a half a watt per square foot at 4 a.m. And then there's some that are really high. And data centers, which are a couple of the one at the bottom there, call centers, those kinds of things you'd expect to be on most of the time. But there are others where, the nighttime EUI, could be quite a bit lower. So if you go to the next slide, we said, okay, well, what if we took a range of buildings and just said, okay, well, maybe it's not a half a watt per square foot, maybe too much to ask for. Let's just say we get it all down to 1 watt per square foot. And if you took 130 sites that we evaluated, and if you got them all, there's that 4 a.m. low down from, whatever it is to 1, we could be saving $1.7 million per year. So then the question is, well, are we able to do that? Can we actually go and tell people to turn down their HVAC systems or what have you, especially in buildings that are not occupied at nighttime? And so if you go to the next slide, the short answer is yes, they can. What you're looking at here is an example of one 9 to 5 medical office building where you've got the 4 a.m. EUI, watts per square foot, across an entire year. And you can see there that there's a lot of dips where it goes, it's 1 to 1.5 a lot of the time, then it dips down to 0.5. And those dips represent weekends. So what we saw was that the facilities team there were turning off the HVAC on Friday nights and then turning them on, early Monday morning. And we said, okay, well, what if you just did that instead of just Friday to Monday? What if you did it every single night? What if you set your BMS so that the system's turned off at 8 p.m. or something and started turning back on at 5 a.m. or whatever the appropriate hours were? And they said, okay, we can try that. And they did. And now their nighttime EUI is not that line that up and down, up and down, up and down. It's a flat line around 0.5. So now we're taking this and we're saying, okay, well, we should be able to do this elsewhere. And if people come back to us and tell us that they can't do it, they should explain why. Like maybe there's some equipment we need to install or some meter or something, some sort of investment that we can make that would probably pay for itself pretty quickly. Okay, now go to the next slide. So everything we've been talking about has been electricity. Everything I've been talking about up till now is dealing with electricity. What we've seen now is we can also do this with gas. There are a lot of our facilities in SoCal gas territory have hourly gas meters, and that might sound surprising because gas isn't priced the way electricity is, and so the need for measuring usage by hour maybe is not as important. But in fact, we actually do have this information. And so what you're looking at here is 4-hour gas usage. So like 12 a.m. to 4 a.m., that would be the hourly night usage, compared to 12 p.m. to 4 p.m., that would be the hourly day usage. And if you look at the building, the graph on the left there, that represents a building where actually across most of the year, the gas usage is higher at night. And this is not a hospital. This is another type of building. And we're trying to figure out why exactly that would be the case. And what you're looking at compared to the right-hand side is actually where night usage, and this is just gas, is lower than day usage across that whole period. And it's lower, but it's not a whole lot lower. So I still think there's some opportunities there. And so if you, again, look at this across a number of different buildings, you can see here that the ratio of nighttime to daytime usage, it varies widely. So at the top there, you see that top building uses 1/3 as much gas at nighttime as it does during the day. And then you get closer and closer to 1, and then higher than 1. And you think, well, okay, why is it, maybe a warehouse or some other facility that may be operating all the time, that kind of makes sense. But maybe it seems like that there may be something wrong there. And then, of course, you get some of these medical office buildings where the nighttime usage is actually quite a bit higher. So is there a lab? Is there some reason for that? That's kind of the next thing we need to explore. The point is only that we would never know how to go about identifying this kind of opportunity. And now with this platform that we do. So again, with straightforward 15-minute interval data across a large fleet of buildings, we could potentially find millions of dollars worth of electricity and gas savings. And that's something that we're really looking at Kaiser, and as an example of how these advanced energy analytics really are changing the way that we're looking at this issue and finding new opportunities, and just changing the way we do energy management overall. So I think that's the last slide. So I thank you for listening, and hopefully you found this presentation helpful and can use this type of information for your buildings. Thank you very much.
For me to kind of talk about the technology behind the hood, because the value that you describe is actually what probably customers are looking for. But I think as the first of all, DERNetSoft provides this mission. Let's say DERNetSoft mission is to provide those energy information system as a service, which makes actually easier for the customer to adopt without huge investment and starting really quickly. And so our focus has been to really combine a digital platform with our professional services, and kind of bridging the gap that we see into companies. Sometimes they lack in resources, they lack in expertise. And we, as a company, we are more focused on commercial, industrial, or corporate businesses as a customer. We started from healthcare, water, and government sector, but we kind of using the platform to cover all other industry sectors. And as the name of the company stands, we haven't talked much about the DER, but DER means distributed energy resources. So technology such as PV, solar, energy storage, EVs. Those are the new technologies that actually are changing the load into the sites. So before getting into the detail or the technology, I'd like to give you a quick overview on the trends that we have seen working with customers. For sure, we all know about the climate change push. We feel like we can see the impact now. And also, as I said, the distributed energy resources technology cost is quickly decreasing. And we also see that every state or nationwide, and also at the corporate, we have seen a lot of sustainability goals and challenging goals. And last, this push for clean and resilient energy solution from business, but also citizen. And I just put the renewable portfolio standards map because we can really see how those trends are pushing the spreading of the green color in everywhere in the US. And California has been always one of the pioneer of that. But we can see now that other states are really pushing towards these new sustainability goals. So all those trends are really bringing new challenging to the energy stakeholders. So not just the business or the corporate, but also the utility side. And we can see that having data produce the value that Seth was referring, but also the lack of those data we see are causing issue on every side of the energy ecosystem. For example, Seth was talking about financial losses if you really don't have a system that can help you monitoring that the DR that you're installed actually are working as designed. But also the utility side, we see a lot of issue in these new resources that are coming out and then needs to be integrated to the grid. So lack of visibility cause really serious problem on the grid management. And finally, we see that on the sustainability side, having new load at the site is not just power consumption as traditionally was. It's now local generation. Is really changing the way also the the energy has been accounted, and so the scope emission. I just want to, I think it was interesting to see how a National Berkeley lab built a framework to describe what are the main capabilities of the energy management information system. And because that's help us to see where we fit. So the energy information system, just a few data from these research they made, is saying that it's an investment that after 2 years can be repaid and can bring out of the box just 3% on energy saving. Now, to get to our approach, I think what we saw as an opportunity was to really build a platform that can support the customer in the transition from a paper bill approach, which like an analog approach, to a more digital approach. So we've seen still a lot of customers working on paper bills. We have seen evaluating submetering solution on the other side. So if paper bills give you a monthly or also quarterly management of your energy in terms of monitoring energy improvement or even billing reconciliation. If you go to the submetering solution, you start to have higher resolution of energy data, but that's a solution that costs money. It's not really something that you can scale up over a large fleet of sites. So we came in with a software approach that was able to leverage the 15 minutes interval data stream with other external service we integrate with other information to actually being able to run our analytics over a large fleet to identify the best opportunity then to get into more specific analysis, even a submeter with another approach. So we were able to really build a platform that can streamline those kind of energy analytics without a huge investment. The platform is made, and I'll go quickly with 5 main pillars. The first was to really design something that can scale and target the commercial industrial customer, let's say business, over entire territories. Then we built a set of interface to import and ingress in our data store, utility data, rate data, weather data, and other important data. And then we added the integration with the local generation. So now we can pull data from DR that are distributed energy resources that actually are into the site. The last piece is the value that we can bring is really to run our set of advanced analytics on top of the data using DERNetSoft Cloud Edge platform, which brings us real scalability and performance. The last piece that we added was how then to aggregate all those data in a fleet management view, and being able to apply or support also provide DR optimization. Those 5 pillars then was able to assure higher level of digitization and standardization through our data store, through our platform, ability to link and to run all these value over a large set of sites, and finally orchestrate those capabilities. The service offer is a mix of platform and professional services. That's important to say. It's not just a platform that you use. We know that sometimes you need expertise, or you don't have the resources. Our services is actually a full package. And in terms of capability or services, we go from energy awareness or compliance reporting. We were able to scale up and digitize it to DR analysis, so PV solar energy storage feasibility study from technical and financial standpoint, and then also to connect with vendors or project developers that are using actually our platform to streamline their offering process. On the DR operation or monitoring side, as we saw with Seth at Kaiser, we have a set of features that can provide PPA auditing, for example, or other type of services. And the last piece that we added is also a corporate sustainability dashboard, in which actually all those data can be processed and transformed into scope emission tracking. I think that will be valuable because, as I said, with all the automation that we can build, now also the corporate sustainability office can use the tool to report easily, or the scope 1 and 2 at least. Now, I just want to give you a quick example of how the system and the platform is deployed at Kaiser, and how it grows over time, because that can give you I think a better sense how you could start in your organization as well. The service that we provide are process automation in the utility data collection, and all the set of analytics that Seth described. Then we also use the platform to secure, transfer, or share data between internal and external teams. And we are now supporting Kaiser in the Emergency Load Reduction Program participation, which is a new program that has been launched in California since last year. So the platform, for definition, is used by different type of internal or external actor. And this is maybe is just technical, but what I want to show here is how different type of data, not just the 50 minutes interval data, are ingress into the platform, one of the main services really how to digitize and standardize all those data across a large fleet and across different territory. So we can now run our analytics and serve different needs, internal or external, the organization. We do have 665 meters as today and 329 sites over 20 utilities territories. And that I like this slide because it shows how really can be you could start in using the platform in your organization. We started at Kaiser in 2019, working in a use case. Seth mentioned the dashboard to monitor the fuel cell export, and then we started to grow into meters and site. And in 2020, we focus on PPA auditing and DR analysis. And then in 2021, we added more and more meters to perform night setback analysis and demand charge analysis. And now in 2022, we're starting to work on the gas setback analysis. So those feature, as Seth mentioned, was able to drive business action at the Kaiser level. We saw the downsize of sorry about that. That's a Murphy. Okay, so we saw the downsize of the fuel cell and how they were able to optimize their DR. And then we talk about how they institute some audit process. So we're able to really now automate all the PPA auditing through the platform, and now also setting up some standards on how to use the energy in the building. So to be able to really identify savings opportunity. I would like to close my presentation with a few more customers reference to show that actually you can use the platform also for cities. This is a city of Saleandro is our customer, and we were able to support them in pulling all the data, doing a feasibility or an audit, energy audit over their large portfolio, identifying opportunity for energy for DR or for program utility program participation. As you can see, some example here in which we were able to size PV solar energy storage, identify payback period, and the reduction in emission. Or for each of those main building to understand what could be a program participation. Another example that we have as a customer, I think, is California Water and Service. They have 1,200 meters over PGE and SE territory, and they didn't have any automation in pulling those data from the meter, so they were sending people to physically read the meter. So they contact us, and we show that our automation, and now they can pull the data daily, and they can save a lot of time in resources, and they can really report energy consumption in a more granular and more. Before they couldn't really read the meters at a time, so they basically report that every, let's say, 3 to 6 months. Now they can do every week, basically. So that has been another a great use case for us to show how our platform can be scalable. We are adding a new territory every day and states. And now I'd like to hand over back to Matt to give an overview on the opportunity that are out there and how the platform can help.
Great, thanks Alberto and Seth for all the great information you shared. So, as was alluded to in earlier slides, one of the benefits of the DERNetSoft platform is that ability to identify potential demand response opportunities, as well as helping to maximize those utility incentives. So just wanted to start with a quick high level of demand response. I'm sure you're all somewhat familiar with DR, but at its most basic level, demand response is one of the tools that utilities and the independent system operator use to manage load on the grid. So, during emergencies, whether that's loss of generation from wildfires or other natural disasters, or just during periods of high heat where the demand on the system is reaching that system capacity, customers shedding load can help to avoid the need to turn on peaker plants or prevent rotating outages. PG&E offers a number of programs that pay customers for agreeing to reduce their usage during specific times of day and times, with varying levels of commitment for each of those programs. And just a plug for our automated DR programs. We also have an auto DR program that's available to help fund the enabling technology to participate in eligible demand response programs. Because, as you know, it can be challenging to dedicate resources to running around a facility, turning things off. So we can help you to automate some of that. And if you don't know what demand response program might be best for you, please do talk to your PG&E account manager, and I'll have my contact information on the next slide. So if you for some reason don't know who to contact, you're more than welcome to reach out to me and I can connect you to that person or that resource. So the Emergency Load Reduction Program, as Alberto mentioned, or ELRP, is a program that went live last year, and it's been a real win for customers who historically have had a hard time participating in demand response, like healthcare, for some obvious reasons. Just want to give a few highlights of the program. There are no penalties for non-participation. So you sign up at the beginning of the season and bid in for each event how much you think you'll be able to reduce, whether that's as low as 1 kilowatt or up to a megawatt, whatever you think is feasible for your facility. And we pay you through our third-party implementer, Olivine, for what you reduce from a weather normalized baseline. Prohibited resources are also allowed under special circumstances, being, if there's an emergency governor's order, as there was last year and the previous year, you may be able to run that diesel generator depending on where you're located. So you want to check with your account manager to see if that's allowed for your facility. And you can enroll directly with PG&E, either on your own or with the support of DERNetSoft, or with a third-party aggregator. We have a list of aggregators on our website that can help identify best fit for DR programs, as well as help you with to meet your commitment for whatever program you sign up for. Next slide. So contact information. Here's how you can reach me, and a couple of helpful links or relevant links: our general demand response page, the PG&E Auto DR program, and then the Emergency Load Reduction Program, ELRP, which is managed by a third-party company called Olivine. So back to you.
Yeah, on our side, we did already supported the program, the Emergency Load Reduction Program. You can go on the website, and basically we were able to automate all the process into the platform. So part of our service will be also to support your enrollment and participation. I think we have around 10 minutes for a Q&A session. I'll ask, you can see also all the webinar contacts. Gavin, did you check if there are any question on the chat.
Yes, we have one question in the chat, and this one is directed at Kaiser. So Seth, which is a higher priority, GHG or cost reductions? In other words, if GHG reductions weren't an issue, would you mostly be doing the same things regarding DERs, peak reduction, et cetera?
I mean, they're both drivers. I would say that affordable healthcare, lowering our expenses as much as possible is our primary mission, and providing healthcare, and that means total health for the communities that we serve, which includes taking actions to reduce the impact of climate change, is part of our mission as well. So, if climate change was not an issue, we would probably still be looking at these types of activities for two reasons. One is to reduce cost, but two, and maybe if climate change was an issue, this wouldn't be an issue, but resiliency. So a lot of our DER investments are driven around facilities that are in particularly vulnerable places as it relates to the public safety power shutoff program. And so there is a resiliency factor to come up with alternatives for our facilities to operate either completely or at least partially for a period of time in the absence of the grid. So it's reliability, it's greenhouse gas reductions, it's cost saving. So it's a little hard to kind of talk about alternative uses alternative universes where certain issues don't exist. I would say they're all sort of equal, frankly.
Great. I can go ahead and ask a couple commonly asked questions that we get. One being, do these services apply to single buildings or just to building fleet monitoring?
I can take these. It's applicable to both single building or fleet. We do provide a dashboard, a profile that can look into the single building, but also provide an aggregate and manage the fleet. So they're both managed by the platform. What we have seen is that probably you can see a lot of value in using a platform approach over a large site, but we have also customer with a few sites or with a single site.
Great. I'll go through a couple more. How does DERNetSoft get our utility data? Is it secure?
So we actually leverage, for example, in PG, the utility, the system that the utility provide to pull data. So we are certified by each utility to connect with their backend system and pull data digitally, and that's actually is one of the main value because it really streamlines this process and take away all the pain on paper bills, and also it actually give us the chance to help customer on checking or managing the meter asset management part. For example, we found that with one customer that they were not paying a meter for 2 years, and they didn't even know that they had that meter. So pulling the data for all the account and having the digital way to analyze the data, it was really funny because they were able to actually fix those kind of problems.
Great. Does DERNetSoft provide real-time data monitoring in addition to utility data monitoring?
Yes, we do have our Grid Edge solution, which is based on OSIsoft technology, which actually is a secure technology to connect the Grid Edge to the cloud and provide a more granular of data. As Matt was mentioning, we actually are working with Kaiser in connecting directly to the electric meter, pulling real-time data to perform some AI-based algorithm on demand notification or forecasting. So we are able to basically send a notification to the facility manager based on those kind of high granular data before the peak is happening. And we've seen that the peak demand is really one of the expensive component on the bills. So if you can get that lower in time, actually that's translating in savings on your bill.
Okay, and one more. What would be the best way to engage with DERNetSoft?
You can see the contact on the slide. So we can, in the website, you can ask for a demo. We can easily show how the platform works from a process standpoint to register a building into or a site of a large number of sites is easy because it's all digital and it's really a few clicks. So I would encourage everyone that is interested to ask for a demo. We can, our sales team can connect and set a 30 minutes demo to go over in detail of the use cases on how to register the building and also to share, other customer and understand what your needs will be.
Great. We got one more question in the chat. There are a lot of vendors that do similar things. What sets DERNetSoft apart?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. We are, I think, two factors are what we see factor on being different from our competition. One is because of this platform approach. We make that not just a platform, but a platform for and professional service at an affordable price. So pricing is one of we've seen one of the factor to select our tool. And the other thing is from a technology standpoint, we do have a focus on DR, which is not just power, it's just also how to mix the new distributed energy resources on your place and help the customer to make sure that they are working properly. So I think that how we can integrate those kind of different streams makes our platform more effective into the new energy ecosystem.
Okay, thank you.
I think we are out of time. I thank you, Seth and Matt and Gavin, for the support for this webinar. I thank you all the attendance, and we'll follow up with an email with the presentation. And I hope to we have been helpful and to get. Feel free to contact me, and we can help you understand more about this. Thank you very much.